Welcome to Crisis in Perception, where we examine the systems shaping our world one book at a time.
Today's going to be a bit different.
Yeah.
Usually we're looking at economic systems or political architectures or, the way technology warps our attention.
Big external thing.
Exactly. But today we're looking at a system that is running in the background of, literally every human interaction, every family dinner, every heartbeat, and every romantic relationship.
And it's a system we almost never look at directly.
Why is that?
I think it's because we're too busy living inside it. We're talking about human sexuality. And before you roll your eyes and think, okay, I know how the birds and the bees work, I took health class, let me just stop you.
Please do.
Because the core puzzle we're unpacking today is that, biologically speaking, human beings are absolute weirdos.
We really are. We assume our behavior is normal because, well, it's all we know. But if you look at the animal kingdom, specifically the, 4,300 other species of mammals that share the planet with us,
Yeah.
human sexual behavior is the statistical outlier. It's bizarre. It appears on the surface to be incredibly inefficient.
I love the way the source material frames this. For this deep dive, we're in Why is Sex Fun? The Evolution of Human Sexuality by the legendary evolutionary biologist Jared Diamond. And right off the bat, Diamond tries to just snap us out of our human-centric view.
He does.
He uses this great mental device he calls the dog's perspective.
It's a brilliant way to induce a crisis in perception, a literal one.
Right. So he says, imagine your dog has a deep understanding of mammalian biology. And imagine your dog has been watching your sex life.
Okay, a little uncomfortable, but I'm with you.
The dog wouldn't just be confused, the dog would be disgusted. The dog would look at you with judgment and say, you people are wasteful, you are irrational, you are breaking all the rules.
From a dog's perspective, human sexuality is a disaster of inefficiency.
A total disaster.
Think about it from a biological efficiency standpoint. Most mammals, they only have sex when the female is in estrus.
When she's ovulating and can actually conceive?
Right. A female dog in heat broadcasts that signal to the whole neighborhood. It's loud, it's smelly, it's obvious. The male shows up, they do the deed, and it's done. It serves one purpose. Reproduction.
Simple. But humans, we're doing it all wrong. We have sex in private, which is already weird for a social mammal.
Very weird.
We have sex on days when conception is biologically impossible. We have sex during pregnancy. We have sex after menopause. And the whole time, the dog is just sitting there thinking, why are you wasting all these calories? Why are you risking injury? Why aren't you out finding food?
Exactly. And the weirdness doesn't stop with the act itself. Look at the social structure.
Okay.
In the vast majority of mammal species, the male contributes sperm and then leaves.
He's gone.
He's gone. He has no further interaction with the offspring. But in humans, the male often sticks around. He provides food, he helps, at least somewhat, with the offspring.
Which is exceptionally rare.
It's an evolutionary anomaly in the mammal world.
So, the mission for this deep dive is to answer that dog's question. Why are we like this? Why did we evolve a system of sexuality that involves recreational sex, fathers who stick around, and women who live for decades after they can no longer reproduce?
And just to ground this in why it matters now, we are constantly debating gender roles, the nuclear family, the nature of relationships.
All the time.
And we tend to fall into two camps. Either we think biology is destiny and we're just, slaves to our caveman instincts,
or we think biology is completely irrelevant and everything is a social construct.
And Diamond is saying, no, look at the system.
He's saying, look at the evolutionary logic. This isn't about moral judgments. It isn't about what is right or wrong in a modern cultural sense.
Right.
It is about understanding the comparative biology. Because if we don't understand the hardware we're running on, we can't really understand why we crash so often.
That's a great way to put it.
So let's get into the source properly. Jared Diamond is obviously a heavyweight Pulitzer Prize winner for guns, germs, and steel. But here, he's really putting on his hat as a physiologist and evolutionary biologist.
Correct. And his methodology here is what we call comparative biology. The central premise is that you cannot understand humans by just staring at humans.
You're too close to the subject.
Way too close. It's like trying to understand the shape of your own eyeball while you're looking through it. To understand why we are the way we are, you have to compare us to our closest relatives, the great apes, and then to mammals in general.
You have to look at the differences.
That's where you see the adaptations. You see where we diverged.
And when we look at that comparison, the timeline is surprisingly short, right? We aren't that far removed from the apes.
In evolutionary terms, it's a blink of an eye. We split from the ancestors of chimpanzees only about 7 million years ago.
That's it, 7 million.
That's it. And genetically, we share something like 98.4% of our DNA with them.
That is always such a staggering number, 98.4%.
It is. But that tiny 1.6% difference accounts for everything that makes us distinct. And Diamond argues there is a trinity of human distinctiveness, 3 major things that separate us from the apes.
Okay, let's unpack the Trinity. What are they?
First, upright posture. We walk on 2 legs. Bipedalism.
Got it.
Second, large brains. We have massive skulls compared to our body size.
Yeah.
And third, weird sex.
Wait, weird sex is on the list of humanity's defining features right next to big brains? That feels disparate.
It feels disparate, but Diamond argues they are causally linked. He argues that our strange sexual behaviors, concealed ovulation, menopause, pair bonding, were just as essential to our survival as our big brains.
So not just a side effect of intelligence.
Not at all. In fact, his central thesis is that you couldn't have the big brains without the weird sex.
So the sex isn't just a side effect, it's a prerequisite for intelligence.
Precisely. The thesis, put plainly, is that all these bizarre features are adaptive solutions to one specific, massive, systemic problem.
Which is?
Human babies are helpless.
Helpless.
Completely useless. I mean, compare a human infant to almost any other mammal. A baby horse, a foal. It stands up and walks within an hour of birth.
Right. It can run with the herd within a day.
A baby chimp can cling to its mother's fur and ride around immediately. But a human baby,
It's a lump.
it is a helpless lump of flesh. It can't lift its head. It can't feed itself. It can't hold on. It's completely dependent for years.
And this is the price we pay for the big brains.
Exactly. It's an obstetric trade-off. If our babies stayed in the womb until they were as physically mature as a newborn chimp, their heads would be too big to fit through the birth canal.
The mother would die.
The mother and baby would die. So evolution struck a deal. Human babies are born prematurely in a sort of fetal state, and they do most of their growing outside the womb.
Which creates a massive logistical problem.
A nightmare problem. Raising a large-brained, slow-growing, helpless offspring in a dangerous prehistoric environment is incredibly expensive.
In terms of calories, protection?
Everything. It is a project that is almost impossible for a single mother to pull off in the wild. She cannot hunt effectively while carrying a helpless infant. She cannot gather enough calories to support lactation and herself if she has to carry the baby everywhere.
So the system had to adapt. It needed a new solution.
Right. We evolved this whole suite of sexual behaviors not to make romance novel covers, but to solve the logistical nightmare of keeping a human child alive.
The system demanded 2 parents.
It demanded 2 parents. Which brings us to the first major insight from the book, and this is where Diamond really strips away the romance and looks at relationships through the lens of game theory. He calls it the battle of the sexes.
And he doesn't mean battle like an argument over who does the dishes.
No, he means a fundamental evolutionary conflict of interest.
Hold on, though. Conflict. I mean, most people think of parenting as the ultimate cooperative effort, you and your partner against the world. Why does Diamond frame it as a battle?
Because of how natural selection actually works. We often have this fuzzy idea that evolution works for the good of the species.
Right, for the herd.
But that's a misunderstanding. Natural selection works on the individual. It's about passing on your specific genes. And this creates a tension. A male and a female share a child, yes, but they do not share an identical genetic destiny.
Okay, break that down for me.
Okay, so imagine a male and a female have just mated. An egg is fertilized. Now, they are locked in a game of chicken, like 2 cars driving at each other. Who swerves? Or in this case, who stays to take care of the baby?
And if they both swerve, if they both just leave,
The baby dies. Game over. 0 genetic payout for anyone.
so the baby must be cared for. But if one parent stays, the other parent is theoretically free to leave.
And if you leave, you can go mate with someone else. You essentially get a free genetic ride. You double your reproductive output without doing the work. It's the free rider problem from economics, but in biology.
So why does the female usually get stuck with the baby? Is it just tradition? Is it cultural?
It's biology. It's the sunk cost and the initial investment. Think about the gametes, the sex cells.
Yeah.
A man produces sperm. They're microscopic, just DNA with a tail.
Biologically cheap.
Incredibly cheap.
Yeah.
He produces roughly 1,000 sperm every second.
Okay.
A woman produces 1 egg a month. It is massive compared to a sperm, about 1 million times the mass. It's packed with nutrients and cellular machinery.
Huh.
So even at the moment of conception, before anything else happens, the female has invested vastly more energy than the male.
And then, because we are mammals, we have internal fertilization. The game is rigged from the start.
Correct. The female is physically stuck holding the baby, literally, for 9 months of gestation. She cannot defect from the game of chicken because the game is happening inside her body.
She can't swerve.
She can't. By the time the baby is born, her investment is colossal.
Yeah.
The male's investment is, well, it could still be just a few minutes of effort.
Diamond had some crazy numbers on this disparity, the reproductive potential.
It's horrifying but illuminating. The record number of children born to one woman in history is 69.
69, a Russian peasant woman, I think.
That's right. Lots of twins and triplets. That is the absolute biological ceiling for a female.
Which sounds like a nightmare.
It is. But compare that to the male record. Emperor Ismail the Bloodthirsty of Morocco.
Right.
He had a massive harem. He fathered, according to records, 888 children.
888.
Some estimates go over 1,000. That is the asymmetry we are dealing with. A male can theoretically fertilize every woman he meets. A female has a hard cap. So the male has massive opportunity costs.
If he stays?
If he stays to change diapers, or the prehistoric equivalent, he is missing out on the chance to be Emperor Ismail.
So the male has a huge evolutionary incentive to leave.
He does. That is the cruel logic of evolution. But, and this is the big pivot, remember the helpless baby.
Right. The big brain problem. The useless lump.
In most mammals, the mother can handle it alone. But in humans, the caloric requirements of the baby are so high and the period of dependency is so long that if the father leaves,
The baby often dies.
and if the baby dies, the father has wasted his investment too. He gets zero genetic payout.
So he's trapped.
He is trapped by the fragility of his own offspring. Humans, along with some birds, are stuck in this rare situation where the male is forced to stay. The pair bond isn't just about love. It's a hostage situation where the hostage is the baby's survival.
Okay, so let's assume the dad has to stay. The logic holds up. But this leads to something I found deeply frustrating as I was reading, and Diamond brings it up.
I think I know where you're going.
If the dad has to stick around to help raise the kid, why is he so useless at the most important part?
You mean feeding?
Yes, lactation. Physiologically, men have nipples. We have the potential for mammary tissue. If the name of the game is keep the baby alive and the mother is exhausted, burning thousands of calories making milk, susceptible to infection, unable to hunt, why didn't evolution flip the switch? Why don't men breastfeed?
It sounds like a joke, but it is a serious biological mystery.
It seems like a massive design flaw. If I were running a factory and one worker was collapsing from overwork while the other one was just standing around guarding the perimeter, I'd redistribute the workload.
It does seem inefficient.
Yeah.
And we know it's not biologically impossible.
It's not.
No. We know that male fruit bats can lactate. We know that male goats can lactate under certain conditions. We know that human males treated with certain hormones, like for cancer treatment, can sometimes produce milk.
So the hardware is basically there.
The nipples aren't just decorations, they are dormant machinery. The potential is there.
So why didn't natural selection turn them on? It seems like such an obvious win for the survival of the offspring.
Diamond argues it's a calculation of risk and cost. And it comes back to that dark cloud hanging over the battle of the sexes. Paternity confidence.
The mama's baby, papa's maybe problem.
Exactly. A mother always knows the baby is hers. It came out of her body. There is 100% certainty. Her genetic investment is safe. A father, historically, never has 100% certainty. Before DNA testing, there was always a chance, maybe 5%, maybe 10%, that the baby belonged to the mailman or the caveman next door.
And lactation is expensive.
Hugely expensive. A nursing mother burns significantly more energy than a non-nursing one. She actually requires more calories than a pregnant woman. It drains the body's reserves of fat and calcium.
So if a male evolved to lactate, he would be making a massive biological investment.
And if that offspring turned out not to be his,
He's committed an evolutionary disaster.
he has starved himself, weakened his ability to hunt or fight, all to raise a rival's genes. Natural selection is brutal. It would weed out any male predisposed to lactate if the paternity wasn't 100% guaranteed. The uncertainty tax was just too high.
So the risk of being a cuckold effectively blocked the evolution of male breastfeeding. We have useless nipples because we couldn't trust our partners. It's pretty bleak.
It is bleak. But it suggests that the evolutionary pressure for not being a sucker was stronger than the pressure for helping the mom.
This issue of trust and certainty brings us to what I think is the most complex and maybe the most fascinating part of the book, the mystery of ovulation. And again, to see why we are weird, we have to look at the neighbors.
Right. Let's look at our cousins, the chimpanzees and the baboons.
If you go to the zoo and you see a female chimp in estrus, you cannot miss it.
It's impossible to miss. Her rear end swells up, turns bright pink or red. It looks painful to us. And she gives off a distinctive smell. She is advertising.
It's a billboard.
A neon sign that says, "I am fertile right now. Come and get it." And this makes sense for them. It attracts males. It creates competition. It ensures she gets pregnant.
But humans, we have concealed ovulation. A woman often doesn't know the exact moment she is ovulating. Her partner certainly doesn't know.
And on top of that, she is sexually receptive all month long, not just during that fertile window.
Diamond calls this the trinity of bizarre behaviors: concealed ovulation, constant receptivity, and recreational sex. Why hide the target? If the goal is reproduction, why make it a guessing game?
This is one of the biggest debates in evolutionary biology. Diamond outlines two main theories, and they tell very different stories about our past. They're almost like two different detective novels.
Okay, let's start with theory A. Diamond calls this the daddy-at-home theory.
Right. This theory suggests that concealed ovulation evolved to cement the pair bond, to force the family unit together.
How does hiding the egg keep the family together? That seems counterintuitive.
Okay, well, imagine if women advertised ovulation like baboons. A man would know exactly which 3 or 4 days of the month his wife was fertile.
Right.
So what would he do? He would guard her like crazy for those 3 days. He wouldn't let her out of his sight to make sure he was the father.
And the rest of the month?
The rest of the month, he knows she can't get pregnant. So he'd be gone. He'd be off wandering, looking for other females who are currently ovulating. He wouldn't bring food home. He wouldn't help with the kids. He'd be a transient fertilizer.
This is how some other primates behave, right?
Yes, it's similar to how gibbons behave. They're monogamous, but they aren't very helpful dads compared to humans.
So by hiding the ovulation.
By hiding the ovulation, the female forces the male to change his strategy. Since he doesn't know when she's fertile, he can't just guard her for a few days. He has to stay home and have sex with her repeatedly and regularly all month long to have a decent chance of being the one who gets her pregnant.
He is forced into monogamy by a lack of information.
Exactly. He exchanges his freedom for a higher confidence of paternity. And because he is hanging around all the time to have sex, he ends up helping with the kids and bringing home food. It creates the domestic unit.
That sounds almost logical. It's the home economics theory of ovulation.
It is. But then there's theory B, and theory B is a lot darker. Theory B is the many fathers theory. And to understand this, you have to understand a brutal reality of primate politics. Infanticide.
This happens in chimps and gorillas, right?
It is disturbingly common. A classic example is the Hanuman langurs in India. When a new male takes over a troop, he fights off the old alpha. The very first thing he often does is go around and kill all the unweaned infants.
That is horrific. Why? Is he just evil?
No, it's cold genetic arithmetic again. As long as the female is nursing a baby, she isn't ovulating. She's in what's called lactational amenorrhea. She is biologically off the market.
She can't get pregnant again.
Right. And if the new male waits for the baby to grow up, he might be waiting 2 or 3 years. By then, he might be overthrown by another male. His window of opportunity is closing.
So he kills the baby to restart the clock.
Yes. If the baby dies, the mother stops nursing. Her hormones reset. She goes into heat almost immediately, and he can get her pregnant with his own offspring. He wipes the slate clean to insert his own DNA.
So how does concealed ovulation stop this massacre?
Confusion. If a female advertises ovulation, every male knows who the father is. I mated with her during the pink phase. That's my kid. Or, more importantly, I didn't mate with her. That's his kid. I can kill it.
Right.
But if ovulation is concealed and the female is receptive all the time, she can sneakily mate with multiple males in the troop. Maybe she has a primary partner, the alpha, but she sneaks off with the beta and the gamma.
So she spreads the possibility around.
She spreads the paternal confusion.
So
She meets with several males. None of them can be sure the baby isn't theirs. And a male is much, much less likely to kill an infant if he thinks, hey, there's a 10% chance that's my kid.
So concealed ovulation evolved to confuse paternity and prevent males from murdering babies.
That is the argument. And here is where Diamond's comparative biology gets really technical and fascinating. He looks at testicle size.
I knew we'd get here.
It's a dead giveaway for a species' ancestral mating habits.
Okay, explain.
Look at the chimpanzee. Chimps are highly promiscuous. Females mate with lots of males when they're in estrus. This creates what's called sperm competition. The sperm from different males are literally racing to the egg inside the female.
So you need a lot of sperm.
You need a flood of sperm. So male chimps have evolved massive testicles, huge factories, to produce enormous volumes.
And gorillas.
Gorillas are the opposite. They have a harem structure. One dominant silverback controls exclusive sexual access to all the females. He has no competition. Once he fights off the other males, the females are his.
So no sperm competition.
None. So despite being a 400-pound monster, the gorilla has tiny testicles, smaller than a human's. He doesn't need to produce volume. He just needs to show up.
And humans, where do we fall?
We are right in the middle. Our testicles are larger than a gorilla's relative to body size, but much smaller than a chimp's.
Which suggests...
It suggests that in our evolutionary past, we weren't fully monogamous like gorillas, or we'd have tiny tests. But we also weren't fully promiscuous like chimps, or they'd be much larger. We were likely mildly promiscuous or socially monogamous with some cheating.
So where does that leave us with Theory A versus Theory B, the daddy at home versus the many fathers?
Diamond suggests a synthesis, which I think makes a lot of sense. It's likely that concealed ovulation started as a way to stop infanticide, Theory B, back when our ancestors lived in more promiscuous chimp-like troops.
So that was the origin.
That was the origin. But once that trait was established, it was co-opted for a new purpose, keeping the dad at home, Theory A, as the pair bond became more important for raising those big-brain babies. Evolution is messy. It recycles old tools for new jobs.
So we have this system where the man stays home, protects the kids, and provides food. This leads us to the man-the-hunter myth. We have this picture of the caveman dragging a mammoth home to feed his starting nuclear family.
The classic Flintstones image.
Yeah, but Diamond says not so fast.
Yeah, the man-the-hunter narrative is very popular. The idea that the nuclear family started because dad went out to get the bacon or the mammoth. But the data really complicates it. Diamond points to these incredible studies of the Ache people in Paraguay.
They're modern hunter-gatherers.
Exactly. So they're one of our best windows into that ancestral lifestyle. And they have been studied extensively.
And what do they find when they look at what the men actually bring home?
They find that the men often make what seem to be irrational choices if their only goal is feeding their own family. There might be reliable food sources nearby, palm starch, for example. It's boring, it's hard work to chop it out of the tree, but it's guaranteed calories.
It's the safe bet.
It's the safe bet. But the men often ignore the palm starch. They go for the big game, the monkeys, the peccaries, the really difficult stuff.
High risk, high reward.
Extremely high risk. They come home empty-handed a lot of the time. Now, if you are a dad and your kids are hungry, relying on a monkey hunt is a terrible strategy. You should be gathering the reliable palm starch.
So why do they do it? Why take the risk?
Diamond calls it the show-off hypothesis. Think about what happens when a man does successfully bring home a huge animal. A peccary is way too big for one family to eat before it rots. So what does he do?
He throws a barbecue for the whole neighborhood.
Exactly. He shares it with the whole tribe. Look at this meat I provided. He feeds the widow next door. He feeds his rivals. He feeds everyone.
And by doing that, he gains status.
Huge status. He signals his genetic quality. Look at me. I'm strong enough, skilled enough, and brave enough to take down this beast. And the data from the Ache is crystal clear. Great hunters have more affairs. They have more illegitimate children. Women are attracted to the show-off.
So hunting isn't just about groceries, it's about marketing.
It is signaling. It is a status display as much as it is a provisioning activity. And this explains why a woman might tolerate a show-off husband. Sure, he might come home empty-handed 3 days a week, and she has to feed the kids with the roots and berries she gathered. But when he does score big, his status rises, and by extension, her children's status rises.
His political capital helps the kid survive, even if his calories are inconsistent.
Precisely. That is a total reframe. It's not just provider, it's public relations.
It's both, but we can't ignore the PR. Okay, let's move to the next weird thing on the list. And this one is a deep physiological mystery. Menopause.
This is a huge anomaly in the animal kingdom.
It really is unique. I mean, humans are basically the only animals that just shut down their reproductive system halfway through their life.
Correct. If you look at a wild chimpanzee, she remains fertile until the end. If she lives to be 40, she can have a baby at 40, and then she dies shortly after. But human women stop reproducing in their 40s or 50s, and then in a natural state can live another 20, 30, even 40 years.
From a brute force evolutionary perspective, which is usually make as many babies as possible, this looks like a disaster. You are voluntarily taking yourself out of the game. You're leaving genetic points on the table.
So why would natural selection favor a gene that says stop having babies? It seems like it should be weeded out immediately.
Diamond uses the grandmother hypothesis to explain this.
Right. And the logic is that at a certain age, you make more genetic profit by investing in your existing family than by trying to create a new one.
Break down the math on that. Why is a grandchild better than a new child? A child shares 50% of your genes, a grandchild only 25%.
It's a risk-reward calculation.
Mm-hmm.
First, childbirth is dangerous. It was
Yeah.
incredibly dangerous in the ancient world, and it gets more dangerous as you age.
Sure.
So if a 50-year-old mother dies in childbirth, she doesn't just lose that new baby. She likely dooms her other young children who are still dependent on her.
Right. If the mother dies, the 2-year-old and the 5-year-old probably die too. The whole lineage could get wiped out.
Exactly. So the risk is massive. Now look at the alternative. If she stops having babies herself, she can focus her energy and wisdom on her daughter's children, her grandchildren. A grandchild carries 25% of her genes. If her help providing food, babysitting, crucial knowledge ensures the survival of, say, 4 grandchildren who otherwise would have died, she has passed on the equivalent of 1 full child's worth of DNA. 4 by 25% equals 100%.
And she's done it without risking her own life.
Precisely. She gets a better genetic return on her investment with much less risk.
It's a portfolio pivot. She shifts from high-risk growth mode to stable asset management mode.
That is a perfect analogy. And there's another layer to this, which Diamond illustrates with a specific story about the Hungia-Kengi.
I loved this part. It felt like a scene from a movie. This is from the Solomon Islands, right?
Specifically regarding the Renal Island people. Hungia-Kengi essentially refers to a catastrophic famine that happens maybe once in a generation. A cyclone strikes, destroys the gardens, wipes out all the staple crops. Everyone is starving.
And in a pre-literate society where nothing is written down, who knows what to do, the 20-year-olds have never seen a cyclone like this. They have no frame of reference.
Only the old women remember. They are the living libraries. Diamond describes how, during one of these famines, the only survivors were the family groups who had a grandmother who remembered, "Oh yes, when this happened 40 years ago, we went deep into the forest and dug up this specific wild root.
The root that looked poisonous, right?
It looked inedible, and if you ate it raw, it was toxic." But the grandmother remembered the complex processing. You have to soak it for 3 days, then mash it, then cook it in a specific way.
That is incredibly specific life or death knowledge.
It is, and without that grandmother, the whole family line dies. So menopause ensures that these repositories of survival knowledge stick around without being burdened by new infants of their own. Her survival isn't just about babysitting, it's about information preservation. In a species like ours that relies on complex culture and knowledge, old people are the backup hard drives.
That is powerful. It really flips the script on aging. It's not a decline, it's a strategic shift in value.
Absolutely, it's an adaptation.
Okay, let's move to the final piece of the puzzle, signals. We touched on this with the show-off hunter, but it goes deeper. How do we choose mates? We think we are being romantic or looking for a good personality, but Diamond says we are subconsciously reading biological badges.
We are constantly scanning for truth in advertising. In the animal kingdom, talk is cheap. Anyone can act tough. Evolution favors signals that are expensive, signals that cannot be faked.
What's the classic example of that?
The classic example is the Zahavi handicap principle. Think of a peacock's tail. It is huge, heavy, and brightly colored. It makes the bird slow. It makes them highly visible to tigers. It is a massive handicap to his day-to-day survival.
So why on earth do females like it? It seems like a bad trait.
Because the male is proving something profound. He is saying, look at my genes. I am so fit, so healthy, and so strong that I can drag this ridiculous, costly tail around, avoid tigers, and still be here strutting my stuff.
A sick or weak male trying to grow a tail like that would die. It's an honest signal because it's a costly signal.
So what are the human equivalents? What are our peacock tails? Diamond points to things like musculature in men and body fat distribution in women. In a hunter-gatherer world, maintaining significant muscle mass is calorie expensive. You have to be good at getting food to look like that. It signals distinct genetic health and your ability to gather resources.
And for women, it's not muscle.
No, for women it's body fat, specifically in the breasts and hips. Lactation is incredibly calorically expensive. A woman with adequate fat reserves signals that she has the energy stores to sustain a pregnancy and successfully nurse a child without starving herself. In a world of scarcity, body fat was a truth and advertising badge for reproductive potential.
But then there are signals that seem to go beyond truth in advertising and enter the realm of just fashion, runaway selection.
Yes, this is the Sir Ronald Fisher model. Sometimes a trait evolves just because it's preferred, and that preference creates a feedback loop.
How does that work?
Imagine a population of birds where a few females happen to have a slight preference for males with slightly longer tails. They meet with those males.
So their sons get the genes for a longer tail.
And this is the key. Her daughters get the gene for preferring long tails. So the preference and the trait get locked together and reinforce each other over generations. It creates a feedback loop. The tail gets longer and longer and longer, far beyond any practical use, until the physics of flight say, stop.
That's the sexy sons hypothesis. You mate with the sexy male, so your sons will also be sexy and get more mates.
Precisely. And Diamond applies this to the human penis.
Yes. We have to talk about the penis.
I do.
Diamond points out something that I think most people don't realize because we don't spend a lot of time looking at gorilla anatomy. Humans are incredibly well endowed compared to our great ape relatives.
We are. A gorilla is a massive animal, 400 pounds of muscle. His erect penis is about 1¼ inches long.
That's it.
That's it. An orangutan is similar. Humans, significantly larger, and way larger than is functionally necessary just to deposit sperm.
So why the upgrade? If it's not for function, what's it for?
Diamond suggests it's a visual signal. It evolved not for mechanics, but for display. He compares it to the phallocarp.
The penis sheaths used by tribes in New Guinea.
Right. Men in these tribes wear these long, decorative wooden or gourd sheaths over their penis. Some are straight, some are curved, some are 2 feet long with fur on the end.
It is a blatant visual display. There's no mistaking the purpose.
It's a billboard. It says, look at me. Diamond speculates that the biological human penis evolved as a similar display signal. It became larger either because females preferred it for some reason, runaway selection, or because it served as a status or threat display to other males. It's not just plumbing. It's an advertisement.
So we've mapped out this crazy counterintuitive system. Let's try to put it all together on the systems board. We have actors, incentives, and loops.
Right. Let's map it. The actors are pretty clear. You have males, females, offspring, and the kin network, the grandmothers and the tribe.
And the core incentive for all of them is what?
At the deepest level, it's genetic immortality, passing on the DNA. That's the prime directive.
But there are constraints that make that difficult.
Yes. The biggest constraint is the helpless infant. That's the central problem everything else has to solve.
Constraint 1, big brains equal helpless babies.
Constraint 2, helpless babies equal a high investment is required to keep them alive.
And constraint 3, that high investment means you usually need 2 parents.
And this is what triggers the feedback loops. The whole system of weird sexuality snaps into place to solve these problems.
Loop 1, the dependency loop.
Right. Because the baby needs help, the female needs the male to stay. To keep him staying, she evolves concealed ovulation and constant sexual receptivity. He stays for the sex and the increased paternity certainty, and the baby survives. It's a closed loop.
Okay, what's loop 2?
Loop 2 is the cooperation loop. Because ovulation is concealed, you get less fighting between males in a troop, because nobody knows for sure who is fertile right now, and you get reduced infanticide because of the paternal confusion.
Which allows humans to live in large, cooperative, multi-male societies without constantly killing each other over mates.
It allows for society, period. And loop 3 is the grandmother loop. Right. Because the culture is complex and knowledge-based, you need long-lived elders to act as libraries. Menopause shuts down their own risky reproduction to preserve these elders, ensuring the survival of the entire lineage during crises like the hunky-kengi.
It is elegant when you see it all laid out. It turns these seemingly weird or inefficient behaviors into a tightly interlocked survival machine.
And it shows that sexual behavior isn't just about reproduction, it's the social glue that holds the whole operation together.
Exactly. But, and this is the big question, we don't live in caves anymore. We live in condos, we have supermarkets, we have birth control. So how do these ancient systems apply to us right now in 2026?
This is where it gets really tricky. We are running Stone Age software on modern hardware. Or maybe it's Stone Age hardware in a modern environment.
Right.
Take the provider versus show-off tension. We still see this.
Yeah.
In a marriage, you might have one partner who is the steady, reliable earner, the provider who brings home the palm starch. And the other might be chasing high-status, risky ventures, the startup founder, the musician.
The modern big game hunter.
Exactly. The tension between safe stability and high-status risk is still very much alive in our relationships. We're still navigating that ancient trade-off.
And what about technology? I mean, we are fundamentally changing the parameters of the game.
We are breaking the game. Think about paternity confidence. For millions of years, that was the driving variable of male anxiety and behavior. It shaped laws, marriage customs, veiling, everything.
Yeah.
Now, a $20 DNA test gives you 100% certainty.
So does that change the evolutionary calculus?
Theoretically, it should. If the uncertainty that fueled the daddy-at-home strategy is completely removed, does that weaken the pair bond over the long term? We don't know yet.
And look at IVF in vitro fertilization. We talked earlier about how internal fertilization was the biological trap that stuck women with the baby.
Right, it was the initial sunk cost.
But with IVF, we are extracting the egg. We are fertilizing it in a dish. We are essentially mimicking the fish strategy external fertilization using technology.
We are. We can freeze eggs. We can use surrogates. We are detaching reproduction from the sexual act itself. We are decoupling the fun from the function.
Which fundamentally breaks the link there. Diamond is talking about sex as the glue for the pair bond. If you don't need sex to reproduce, and you don't need the pair bond for basic survival in the same way, what happens to the meaning of sexuality?
That is the open question.
Yeah.
We might be entering an era where recreational sex becomes purely recreational, completely decoupled from its evolutionary origins for the first time in history.
There is also a warning here, right? Diamond is very careful about this.
Very careful, and we need to be too. This analysis explains origins. It does not justify behavior.
Right.
Just because show-off philandering has evolutionary roots, or just because males have a biological urge to spread their seed, does not make cheating moral or acceptable.
Natural does not mean good.
Exactly. Rape, infanticide, and coercion are natural in the animal kingdom. We built civilization and ethics specifically to transcend those natural impulses. Understanding the system is supposed to help us manage it, not give us an excuse to indulge it.
Which brings us back to the core theme of crisis in perception. We perceive romance. We perceive love. We perceive attraction to a specific person.
But the system perceives investment. The system perceives disease resistance. The system perceives paternity confidence.
Our conscious experience, the butterflies in the stomach, the heartbreak, that is just the user interface.
It's the dashboard. The dashboard tells you love. The engine is doing genetic calculus. And usually it's good that we don't see the engine. It's not very romantic to look at your partner and think, I am staying with you to maximize the survival rate of my offspring due to their high caloric requirements.
I love you so much, my little investment strategy.
Right. It doesn't quite have the same ring to it.
But there is something incredibly empowering about seeing the engine. For example, menopause. If you view it through the lens of modern medicine, it's often treated as a failure. The term is literally ovarian failure, a shutting down.
But through the systems lens, it is an active, brilliant strategy. It is a promotion. You are graduating from the high-risk job of manufacturer to the high-leverage job of manager and consultant. It reframes the entire experience from a loss to a gain.
And recreational sex.
It stops looking wasteful and starts looking highly efficient. It is the cheapest, most effective way to maintain a long-term bond that is necessary for the survival of the most complex organism on Earth.
So as we wrap up, what is the big perceptual shift here? How should the listener walk away viewing their own relationships differently after this?
I think this book forces you to stop asking, why do animals do that? And start asking, why do we do this? It humbles us. We are not separate from nature. We are just a very specific, very weird flavor of nature. And it helps us to be a little more forgiving, I think. The tensions between men and women, the conflicts over fidelity and investments, these aren't just personal failings. They're the echoes of a 7-million-year-old negotiation. We are all trying to reconcile contradictory biological imperatives in a modern world.
And here is a final provocative thought to leave you with. We talked about the phallocarp, the penis sheath, and the idea of signals. Humans are the only species that can consciously modify our signals.
Right.
We wear makeup to mimic the flush of youth. We pump iron to mimic the strength of a hunter. We get plastic surgery to mimic the fat distribution of a fertile 20-year-old. We are constantly trying to hack the evolutionary algorithm of the people around us.
We are. We're constantly trying to fake the expensive signals on the cheap.
But here's the question. We are also the only species that understands the algorithm. We know about the battle of the sexes. We know about the game of chicken. Does knowing the rules of the game allow us to stop playing it? Can we use this perception to declare a truce? Can we decide to cooperate not because our genes force us to, but because we choose to.
That is the ultimate test of our humanity, isn't it?
Mm.
Can the software override the hardware? I'd like to think so, but the hardware is very, very old and very, very strong.
Something to mull over tonight. The book is Why is Sex Fun? The Evolution of Human Sexuality by Jared Diamond. It is a fascinating read, really accessible, and it will absolutely change the way you look at your family dog and your partner. We encourage you to read the book or borrow it from a library.
Absolutely. It's a classic for a reason.
This project is free and publicly accessible. If you'd like to support the time, tools, and research behind crisis and perception, you can become a supporter on Patreon. For a shorter visual overview of this topic, see the mini explainer linked in the description. If you enjoy this kind of systems-level analysis, please like, subscribe, and comment with books or topics you'd like us to explore next.